Brandon Holbrook convicted of murdering Joseph Shymanski. The case of Joseph Shymanski, a well-known Washington, D.C. artist, has taken a significant turn with the conviction of Brandon Holbrook for his murder. The verdict was delivered on April 9, 2025, after a trial that shed light on the brutal nature of the crime. Joseph Shymanski was a talented artist and businessman from Washington, D.C. He was known for his photography and had built a reputation in the art world. Shymanski's family and friends described him as a kind and gentle soul who was loved by many. Shymanski's disappearance on September 3, 2023, sparked a massive search effort. His family reported him missing on September 4, 2023, and the Calvert County Sheriff's Office launched an investigation into his disappearance. Deputies responded to a missing persons report and began searching for Shymanski. As investigators dug deeper, they suspected foul play and launched a homicide investigation. On September 7, 2023, the Sheriff's Office announced that they had found Shymanski's suspected remains. Brandon Holbrook was identified as the prime suspect in the case. Investigators discovered that Holbrook had shot Shymanski in his driveway on September 3, 2023. He then transported Shymanski's body to his home in Reedsville, Pennsylvania, where he dismembered and burned the corpse. Holbrook was arrested and charged with murder, first- and second-degree assault, and use of a firearm in the commission of a felony. The trial began in April 2025, and the prosecution presented evidence that Holbrook had planned and executed the murder. The defense argued that Holbrook was not in his right mind at the time of the crime, but the prosecution countered that the evidence showed a clear intent to kill. The jury deliberated and delivered a guilty verdict, convicting Holbrook of murder. Holbrook is scheduled to be sentenced on July 18, 2025. The state is seeking a life sentence without parole, citing the brutal nature of the crime and the impact on Shymanski's family and friends. The defense will likely argue for a lesser sentence, but the prosecution is pushing for the maximum penalty. The conviction of Brandon Holbrook for the murder of Joseph Shymanski brings closure to a tragic case. The investigation and trial revealed a shocking crime that has left many in the art community shaken. Reactions from the community. The news of Holbrook's conviction has sent shockwaves through the art community, with many expressing their condolences to Shymanski's family and friends. Some have also called for greater support and resources for those affected by violence. Shymanski's family has released a statement, expressing their gratitude to the investigators and prosecutors who worked tirelessly to bring Holbrook to justice. They have also thanked the community for their support during this difficult time. Impact on the family. The loss of Joseph Shymanski has had a profound impact on his family and friends. His loved ones describe him as a kind and gentle soul who was always willing to lend a helping hand. Shymanski's family has been open about their grief, sharing stories and memories of their loved one. They have also been vocal about the need for justice and accountability in his case. The investigation. The investigation into Shymanski's disappearance and murder was a complex and challenging one. The Calvert County Sheriff's Office worked tirelessly to gather evidence and identify suspects. The Sheriff's Office has received praise for their work on the case, with many commending their dedication and professionalism. The investigation is a testament to the importance of thorough and meticulous police work. The trial. The trial of Brandon Holbrook was a highly publicized and dramatic one. The prosecution presented a wealth of evidence, including testimony from witnesses and physical evidence linking Holbrook to the crime. The defense argued that Holbrook was not in his right mind at the time of the crime, but the prosecution countered that the evidence showed a clear intent to kill. The jury deliberated and delivered a guilty verdict, convicting Holbrook of murder. Sentencing. Holbrook is scheduled to be sentenced on July 18, 2025. The state is seeking a life sentence without parole, citing the brutal nature of the crime and the impact on Shymanski's family and friends. The defense will likely argue for a lesser sentence, but the prosecution is pushing for the maximum penalty. The sentencing will be a critical moment in the case, with many eagerly awaiting the outcome. Conclusion. The conviction of Brandon Holbrook for the murder of Joseph Shymanski brings closure to a tragic case. The investigation and trial revealed a shocking crime that has left many in the art community shaken. As we reflect on this case, we remember the victim and the impact of his loss on those who knew him. The case serves as a reminder of the devastating consequences of violence. As the sentencing date approached, Shymanski's family and friends prepared for what they knew would be a difficult and emotional day. They had been through so much already, and the thought of facing Holbrook in court again was daunting. But they were determined to see justice served. They wanted Holbrook to receive the maximum penalty for his crime, and they were prepared to make their voices heard. On July 18, 2025, the courtroom was packed with people who had come to show their support for Shymanski's family. The atmosphere was tense and somber, with a sense of anticipation hanging in the air. Holbrook was brought into the courtroom, his hands cuffed behind his back. He looked pale and nervous, and his eyes darted back and forth as he scanned the room. The judge entered the courtroom and took his seat. He looked at Holbrook and began to speak. "Brandon Holbrook, you have been convicted of the murder of Joseph Shymanski. This was a brutal and senseless crime that has caused immense pain and suffering to the victim's family and friends." The judge paused, collecting his thoughts before continuing. "The evidence presented in this case showed that you planned and executed this murder with cold calculation. You shot Joseph Shymanski in his driveway, and then you transported his body to your home in Pennsylvania, where you dismembered and burned it." The courtroom was silent, with all eyes fixed on the judge. The impact of this crime on the victim's family and friends has been devastating. They have suffered immeasurably, and they will continue to suffer for the rest of their lives. The judge looked at Holbrook, his expression stern. "Brandon Holbrook, you have shown no remorse for your actions. You have shown no empathy for the victim or his family. You have shown no willingness to take responsibility for your crime." The judge paused again, his voice firm. "It is for these reasons that I sentence you to life in prison without the possibility of parole. You will spend the rest of your life behind bars, with no chance of ever being released." The courtroom erupted into a mixture of emotions. Shymanski's family and friends were relieved and grateful that justice had been served, while Holbrook's family and friends were devastated by the sentence. As Holbrook was led out of the courtroom, he looked back at the judge, his eyes filled with tears. But it was too late for tears. The damage had been done, and now he would have to live with the consequences of his actions. Shymanski's family and friends, on the other hand, could finally begin to heal. They knew that Holbrook would never be able to hurt anyone again, and that brought them a sense of peace and closure. The case of Joseph Shymanski's murder would never be forgotten, but at least justice had been served. The community could rest a little easier knowing that a dangerous individual was behind bars, and that the victim's family could finally begin to move on with their lives.